Welcome to SorWil Solutions, where we talk about what's going on in our community. And today, our special guest is Connie Harmon, the Executive Director of the Leavenworth County Council on Aging. Welcome to our podcast.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
We are excited to have you. I think our community doesn't really have an idea of all the things that you guys do. I was completely caught off guard as I ran for county commissioner, and I got to come in and judge the costume contest. It was an incredible experience. I got to meet some of the people that attend, all wonderful people. And so what I was hoping that we could talk about is all the services that you provide, how people can get involved, how we can bring family members who may not think they're that age there. And what's even funnier is I think I'm very close, if not at that age, that could attend.
You might be there, Joe.
I might be there. I might be there. I was talking to Elaine, and she said she felt like she was there, but she couldn't come because she was not old enough to go yet. But it was just an exciting conversation. It starts much earlier than I think many of us mentally really prepare for, but it's a way to bring community to people who probably don't have a lot of community. They're having a tough time traveling or moving around. I know my mother would love it there. She's 87. God help, she didn't ever hear I said that. But she doesn't think she's old enough.
Right.
And so I think it's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Can you kind of tell me how you got involved?
Yeah. It's an interesting story. I used to work in educational technology and travel the country. And I did that for a while. And I came home, I was grounded during COVID. So not flying anymore. Where the only thing you could do was walk around your neighborhood or play golf. And I live on a golf course. So
Wow.
looking out the window and didn't recognize or know any of my neighbors.
Okay.
I'd been traveling for so long. So this job came open at about the same time. And, I have a background in education and coaching and mentoring. And so I applied and thought it might be time to just come home and serve the community and see what we could do here and, live in Leavenworth County. So that's what brought me to the Council on Aging. I wasn't quite sure exactly everything that I was going to get into, but it was really sits in my wheelhouse of experience. And then I had the opportunity to put a staff together. I had 13 openings to fill when I got here, so I could kind of pick my team while things were quiet during COVID. And so I just assembled a really amazing team of people, and we could reinvent ourselves when we opened back up when restrictions were gone after the lockdown.
Where was the Council on Aging located when you first became involved?
So it was located at 1830 South Broadway, which was
Okay.
the home of the old infirmary or the nursing home that the county ran at that time. And so all of those rooms were converted into offices, and it was pretty empty. I think we had about 85 people who regularly attended at the Council on Aging, different things. We had two activity rooms, so we were kind of limited on what we could offer at that time.
But now it's located in the old Cushing building.
Yes.
So how did that come about?
So St. Luke's Hospital left Leavenworth in October of 2020, and they were able to negotiate with the county to sell that building for $1. And,
Oh, wow.
and so that's how they were looking for another space for the Council on Aging. But once that came about, then they thought about moving us over there on that first floor. And so it was about, I don't know, less than a year that I'd been there before we started planning for that new facility. And it's just amazing how we were able to make that space what we really wanted it to be and what we imagined aging services could look like in Leavenworth County.
You had said, as we were talking before the podcast, that what it was isn't what it became. What was it like beforehand compared to what it became?
Yeah, I think before it was probably your grandma's Council on Aging. I mean, pretty typical bingo, tea parties, different things like that, seasonal things. But I knew that aging into resources myself and beginning to care for my own parents, that it looked different for different people. So we just sat down as a staff and said, what do we love about what we have and what do we want to continue to offer? And then what do you think it could be? What could you imagine it could be? And what do you want to make sure we have space for? And so that's where, we now have a ukulele club and we offer
Okay.
more trips and more opportunities and just lots of different programming than we had before. We have the space to do it.
It's amazing that the county was able to find a space that you were able to expand programs. I think it shows the value that we place on that stage of life for our community, which I think is awesome.
Yes.
You get the opportunity to work with people at very different stages of life. What perspective do you think that gives you that most people don't get to see?
Um, yeah, it's really interesting to hear about their experiences, where they've been, what they need from us. Our philosophy at the Council on Aging is to lean into yes.
Okay.
So if someone says, have you ever thought about, could we try this? Like, for example, something that came to us from a client was she was separated from her husband. His family moved him to a nursing home in Johnson County, and she's legally blind and not able to drive. And she's like, have you ever thought about starting a program where you transport people out of county to visit loved ones that they can't get to? And so we had so many people who were separated during COVID that hadn't seen their spouses in 12, 18 months. We started this program called Heart to Heart, all because of a phone call, somebody asking, could I go? And she was able to meet and see her husband multiple times before he ultimately passed away within that year.
Wow.
And so, to be able to make those connections for people and get them the resources that they need, that's, what we're all about.
I think it's awesome. Lean into yes. I think that's something that we should all look at doing, because often we don't. We just always. I think people's first knee jerk response sometimes is just no.
Yeah.
We just can't do that. And to find somebody that is able to find ways to make these things work, I think is amazing. And I've heard nothing but great things about you and the program that you run. Can you just kind of tell some of our listeners what are some of the programs that you have there that they may not even realize?
Yeah. I think we offer a variety of support groups. Another story for us, a lady came in, her husband has Parkinson's, and she's like, could we start a support group? I was talking to my doctor. There are lots of people in this community that could benefit. So we started that. So we have a Parkinson's support group, a caregiver support group, one for grief and loss, about what are those next steps. So that's something that I don't know that people
Mhm.
understand that we have. We offer a chore program where we can get people's trash. I think that's something that people overlook, but taking that trash receptacle
Yeah.
down the bottom of a hill to your curb and back is difficult. And so we help people with that. We call it curb to curb. So we get their
Oh.
trash out so it can get picked up, and then
Mhm.
we swing back around, grab that receptacle and wheel it back up the hill or wherever, the driveway, for folks who have limited mobility but are still at home. We do some shopping for folks and make sure that, people have resources if they can't physically navigate the grocery store anymore, that we can help them with that. We've transitioned nearly everyone to online shopping where we
Mhm.
just pick it up, and then, the bags are heavy. So we help them unpack them and do that at home. But we offer free legal service,
Okay.
free tax service,
Uh-huh.
um, just about everything. Our goal is to offer just wraparound comprehensive services. So you can use us as much or as little as you'd like.
One of your biggest services is Meals on Wheels.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about that for people who may not know?
Yeah. Meals on Wheels, we're set to deliver, I think we delivered 112,000 meals
Wow.
last year. We were serving about 200, 250 when I got here. And I
Mhm.
think we're up over 600 people that we're serving meals to every day. And, what's the beautiful part of Meals on Wheels is you not only get that nutritious meal that's certified by a dietitian, but you also get that daily check in. So if we haven't made contact with someone, or we're calling their emergency contact, have you heard from? Do you know, are they at the doctor? They weren't home for their meal today. So, for people who might not have anybody checking on them,
Mhm.
Meals on Wheels is that daily check in to make sure that somebody knows where they are and that they're okay.
I think a question that I always get is the cost for the services. Does somebody coming in, is there a certain cost for some of these services?
Yeah. So it depends. If it's something that my staff can offer when it's
Mhm,
programs like that, then we offer all those at no cost. If
mhm.
I think we just raised our price for bingo. It was a sad day. $2 to play bingo because the dollar store is not the dollar store anymore. It's the $1.50 store, the $1.75. So um, we try and keep costs at a minimum. We do receive federal funding for our Meals on Wheels program, so we can keep those costs low at $3 per meal. 250 for a ride for our transportation. So the county is incredibly supportive of our services. And so with that, we're able to keep our prices low.
But on the Meals on Wheels, if they can't afford the $3, you'll still provide the meal for them.
Absolutely. No one's ever denied a meal. That's why you'll see us doing some fundraising, doing some different things. We'll do a Meals on Wheels benefit. Again, this year, it's 50 years of Meals on Wheels in
Wow.
Leavenworth County this year. So we'll do something special for that. August 22nd, mark your calendars.
You guys have a couple of great fundraisers. The last one was the
Oh, Dancing Through the Decades.
Dancing Through the
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. We love to dress up at the Council on Aging. So
Yes,
if
you
we
do.
can have a theme party, we're doing it.
That's awesome. The event that I think that I first got to meet you and got to know you at was the costume contest, and I've gotten to do that for 2 years now. It is so much fun.
Yeah.
These guys get excited for it. There's some really interesting costumes that they
Yeah.
come up with.
Yeah.
I think this year, one night stand.
Yes.
And it was literally a nightstand,
Mhm.
one, and that was amazing. I still tell that story, and I had it all over my Facebook, and I can't tell you how many comments I got
Yeah.
just on that.
Yeah, it sounds scandalous, but we forget that they're adults, everyone that we serve. And so, yes, that's super fun. And they love to be silly, and my staff is silly, and we love to dress up. So we like to encourage that in folks. Aging can be hard, but if you can come to the Council on Aging and really just forget about all of that for a little while and wear a silly costume or karaoke for a while, that's what we want.
What age do you start? Does somebody start to age into council on aging?
Yeah. We have people call us of all ages, just because we're aging into a time when we're taking care of our parents. So if you have questions about that, you can call anytime. But typically for our services and our programs, our activities, it's 50 and up. Any of our federally funded programs and our income-based programs are 60 and up.
Now you said people can get rides.
Mhm.
How does that exactly work? You said 250 for the ride. So they call up and they say, "Hi, I would like to go here."
Yep. And so we verify age. We ask, what they need, the services. So if it's in county, we take folks to the hairdresser, to Dillon's, to Walmart, anywhere you can think of, the bank, those kinds of errands that they need to run business. Sometimes people need to go to the courthouse to do county business, that kind of
Mhm.
thing. So we'll do that. We book those rides out 2 weeks in advance. So they can call anytime in that window. And it's harder to get a same day ride because we are so booked. But for out of county trips, we do those for medical trips. So you can go anywhere within a 50-mile radius of
Oh, wow.
Leavenworth for medical. So we burn up the highway to KU Med, every Sabadez Eye Center
Wow.
where you need to go. But St. Luke's North, we'll go to Lawrence,
Mhm.
wherever they need to go. And we book those out 12 months.
Wow.
No, that's a lie. 2 months.
Big difference between 12 and
Oh,
2.
yeah. No, 2 months in advance.
How many drivers do you have? How many vehicles do you have? How
Yeah.
hard is that to staff?
Yeah. So we have a fleet of 31 vehicles.
Oh my God, I had
And
no
so
idea.
we use about 12 of those for transportation. Nearly all of our vehicles are accessible. So they have a ramp or a lift. So we can transport wheelchairs, walkers, all of that. I have 17 drivers or 17 in my transportation department, a couple of dispatchers. But then we have drivers that work different schedules, some that are full-time, some that are part-time, some that work for us about 18 hours a week. So they drive our Kansas City trips and then take a trip into Kansas City and then go home.
And some of these are retired people that are doing these trips for you guys, right?
Most,
Mhm.
most are. So we get a lot of folks that we have retired police officers. I think we have the whole retired post office mail system. And then we have some folks with the mandatory retirement from the prisons at 57, and they're just, still ready to do and help the community. So we have some folks who retire from
That's
that
just
system. And
amazing. That's just amazing.
yeah,
What do families tend to wait too long to ask for help with? As a caregiver, and I'll kind of frame this a little bit. My mother is, like I said, 87 years old. Being a caregiver at home is difficult. There's probably a lot of gaps that I could fill with the Council on Aging, but what do people tend to wait too long to ask for help with?
yeah. And it's typically our caregivers who wait too long till they're overwhelmed, where we could help with some support all along. I think we feel like that's our responsibility, that's our burden to
Mhm.
take on, and we don't always ask for help when we need to. So I would say caregivers, anyone supporting their parents either outside of the home or in their home, those are the folks we want to talk to, and see what we can do to help them get the resources they need so they don't get to burnout and start having it affect their own health.
You've kind of focused on expanding programs that focus on quality of life, not just basic needs. Why was that important to you?
I think that, people are living longer,
Mhm.
and sometimes we see folks who have outlived their own children.
Oh, wow.
And so to have somewhere and someone to talk to, I think is important. I think social isolation and isolation in general is one of the biggest issues that we
Mhm.
face. And if we can, bring a little happiness, that's what we want to be that for them um, in this community.
Seems as we get older, and I've noticed this trend among a lot of the older people that I know, they tend to move towards self isolation for some reason. They don't like big crowds. They don't want to get out and put themselves in awkward situations. I know as my father got older, before he passed away, he was really bothered by large groups. It's hard, and it's hard to overcome that, especially for people who were very active at one time.
Sure.
So when they come to the Council on Aging, they're able to express themselves, they're able to do some of these things. How do you convince someone that they should come?
Yeah. Well, typically word of mouth in this
Hmm.
community. You find somebody who will put it out on Facebook who had a good experience, but
Hmm.
we typically see folks bringing people with them. Just try it one time. Um, and I think that's probably our biggest way of expanding our services. There's somebody who is that go getter and just naturally finds us, and then they
Hmm.
bring all of their friends in, or they tell all of their groups. And we try and get everything out that we can out on social media to show them that it's lots of different things. We don't just play bingo, right? And you're not resigned to playing bingo after 65, right? So we try and give them all kinds of experiences to pull in folks from all walks of life.
You talked about, I think, one time when we were having a conversation of kind of like a bucket list experience
Mhm.
that people get to experience. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it was just one of those conversations we were having with a client, and they'd been on a trip and had a good time, and they just flippantly said, "Why don't you take us zip lining?" And we said, "Okay, let's work that out." And that's how Blast Adventures were born out of that. So we figured out where we could go and what that would look like. And we know those trips are a little bit more expensive. So we do have some resources to help folks if they need a little bit of help financially with those trips to be able to do it. But then the ideas just kept coming out of the woodwork. So we went zip lining, we went kayaking, we went on a helicopter ride. We've done all kinds of things. And, bucket list adventures could be nearly anything. They don't have to be things that seem risky. Like we took folks riding the streetcar from one end of the other in downtown Kansas City because
Hmm.
that's an adventure that they're not going to do on their own anymore.
Yeah.
And so all of the girlfriends could get on there and go and jump off the streetcar and do some shopping and some eating in downtown Kansas City. And that still also feels like an adventure. So we have a suggestion box and people drop those in there. And like I said, if we can figure it out, we're going to try it.
I'm just trying to envision some elderly people going zip lining.
Yeah.
Is there a certain amount of liability in there that concerns you, or?
Well, we have some liability waivers that we have
Uh-huh.
folks sign when they come on, and that they have talked to their doctors, and and we also try and say this is about how much it's going to take from you. Like this one requires
Mhm.
going upstairs, and you
Mhm.
have to be able to walk a quarter mile or whatever it is through the woods to be able to zip line. But people know their bodies, but sometimes they tell us, I'm not telling my kids. Shh, don't tell my kids, or my kids won't take me. So when we went to Snow Creek and we went tubing at Snow Creek, their kids didn't find out till after they did that. And, I had folks beating me up that hill and up and down that, were 20 years older than me that day. So it's just, there really are no bounds to what we'll try if they want to get it out there.
That's amazing. Have you ever had a family member just call and give you an earful because you took their mom on a tubing trip or something like that?
Not yet, and I hope I don't. But, I think when we advertise those sometimes on Facebook, we'll get some folks, he'll say, "Why don't you just take him to Putt-Putt?" Or, "Can't you take him to the new theater?" And, we fight that kind of ageism too. There's
Yes.
still things that people wanna do, and if they're able to do it, we wanna give them that opportunity.
It's my mother was a caregiver for a long time, and I always often said that my father had 3 open heart surgeries, and she always limited the things he could do, which really, I think, in some ways made life difficult for him because he
Mhm.
was a strong man for a long time, military guy and did all these things, and now he's, they're just trying to limit him to being at home, that he would have just
Yeah.
benefited from a number of these experiences that allow people beyond certain ages to continue to live. And so I think that's amazing that you can offer these. How do you balance what people want to do with the resources that you have?
We really try and we build our calendar out about 16 months, and we look at where could we place these things to make sure that we try and do something at least once a quarter
Mhm.
that is a big adventure. And then we have our regular trips that are a little less expensive that people can do that. And then we operate on a lottery system. So we have so many people sign up, and we have limited resources in that. It takes a driver of every vehicle we take, and
Mhm.
things like that. So they're on a lottery, and we draw names, and it's really luck of the draw. Sign up,
Mhm.
but we'll have 100 people sign up for one trip, and we can take 25.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so the next group, the people that get to go, their name gets taken out of the hat, and so the next group can go, or you can get those additional people in at some point?
So as the mystery breakfast is the toughest one. So we load people up on a bus and we take them somewhere into the city or around here, into Johnson County or wherever, for breakfast. And they don't know where they're going until they get there. And then they buy breakfast and we bring them back. That's a hot trip. So if
Everybody
you're
wants to go there.
picked for mystery breakfast this time, then the next time, you're not going to be chosen. We try and get
Oh,
down that wait list, but you only have to sit out for the next one, and then you can sign back up and
wow, that's
do that.
amazing.
Yeah.
You serve so many people. You see people from all walks of life. What has this taught you about resilience?
Yeah. I think that there's just so much to life that, and you want to make sure that people have every opportunity that they can, and that they just may need a leg up. And so if we can be that, we put in a pantry. We work with the community pantry project,
Mhm.
and um, we put in a pantry out front of our building, and people may just need to grab some peanut butter or may need to grab something off the shelf because right now they just don't have it. And so we want to make sure that if they're waking up every day, that they have what they need, and if we can help them get it, we're going to.
That's awesome. When I was in college, I thought I was going to be a psych major, and I did some geriatric volunteering. Um, and you get to talking with people. I was at the VA, and one day you go in, that person's not there anymore. This job that you do can be very emotionally heavy. That somebody who's come to all these events all of a sudden now has passed. How do you guys, as a staff, handle that kind of grief? I'm sure you guys get really close to people.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that's super important is culture for
Mhm.
staff and building team. And my staff is incredibly close because we are always working together to ensure that people are connected to the resources. You may run the PET program and you visit your client and realize they need Meals on Wheels or they need transportation. So everybody's in constant contact. So um, we fall back on laughter, humor,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. But we've also had the opportunity to bring in chaplains, grief counselors, as we are always dealing with anticipatory grief as we watch people take a steady decline. And you do lose people that you're super close to. So we allow time for folks to attend those
Mhm.
services, to make sure that they can find closure in that. And then we pick each other up and make sure that we're ready to do it again tomorrow.
Do you see some of your attendees start to develop close relationships with one another as well?
Oh, absolutely. And so you'll see someone who they met at bingo and, I'm no longer able to drive. So that one person's picking them up and bringing them. They want to make sure that they can still get there. And so they take care of each other that way too.
What are some of the things that in our community that maybe you see seniors need support with that maybe they can't even get at the Council on Aging?
Mm. Well, we try and be everything to
Everything,
everyone.
get ready.
But I think, we see financial insecurity.
Mhm.
We see, um, food insecurity. They'll need help with utilities, different things like that. Those we don't offer that kind of assistance with
Mhm.
utilities, but we do now, like I said, have a pantry that's stocked all the time to make sure that we can help with food insecurity.
And that's outside of the building, people can stop by anytime.
Yep, the philosophy it's painted on the pantry. Take what you need, leave what you can.
Mhm.
So we'll have people bring something. And then, bring a can of spinach that they don't want, that their kids want them to eat, and they'll take a hamburger helper instead.
Do you ever see anybody come through that pantry? Has something negative ever happened or somebody come in and they
No,
faced it or anything like that?
no, absolutely. Maybe a raccoon. I think we
Uh,
had one raccoon one time, but it's also for the community. So
mhm.
we see people from all walks of life utilizing that pantry, and there's no judgment because it is. If you need it, take it.
Mhm.
And we have folks from the community who just stop by. I have someone who stops by every week and stocks that pantry.
Now you said you guys were involved with the food pantry program for the county. Is that right?
It's called the Community
Mhm.
Pantry Project, and
Okay.
it's a local nonprofit
Mm.
here in Leavenworth, run by Kat and Lucy McIntyre.
Uh-huh.
And so it's always a blue pantry or a teal
Mhm.
colored pantry. You'll see some other ones of those popping up around Leavenworth as we, really think about food deserts and access
Mhm.
to food and, where can we put those pantries to make sure that people have access to them.
We've had the United Stronghold on here
Yeah.
with that does food insecurity for the military. And I tell the story all the time. People are like food insecurity for the military. That's crazy, but it happens. Food insecurity in our community is a little more understanding at the differences in wages and unemployed and all that. How can we support that? I mean, is it people can bring stuff to you that you would donate to the pantry? How can we as a community support you?
Yeah. So just this last Saturday, we had a community support drive. And so we're connected through the Leavenworth Food Coalition,
Mhm.
Leavenworth County Food Coalition. And so we have been a central depository at the Council on Aging. And then we farm that food out to different organizations. Like, for example, we're tied to Good Shepherd thrift store in Tonganoxie, and they were looking for chili, pork and beans, jelly, things like that.
Mhm.
I took all of that out of our pantry and we ran it over to Good Shepherd because it had come in through that community support drive. We got cases of pull ups for boys.
Oh, wow.
And so, not really anything that we need at the Council on
Mhm.
Aging. So, we are taking those to Catholic Charities to make sure. So, we're kind of feeding things out to the different pantries, meal sites, things like that to ensure that the food is getting where it needs to go.
Before we kind of change directions here, I want to hear about one of your favorite interactions at the council.
Oh, well, there are so many, Joe, but I will tell you about a letter that I just received. Got a card, handwritten note, and it was a lady who said, um, 2 years ago, I was in a deep, deep depression. And I started coming to the Council on Aging, and I feel like myself again. And so she comes to nearly everything that we offer, and she's like, you just have been the light for me. And so those kinds of stories, I think, are what keep us going. I give myself goosebumps thinking about
Wow.
that. But,
That's
that
amazing.
people would take the time to write that note and say, here's what you did for me. And then, like I said, we laugh every day. There's
Wow.
just silliness over there.
Before we change gears here, you August 22nd, we have an event coming up. You
Yes.
just want to cover that again?
Yes.
And then where can people donate? Where can people get more information? You want to just kind of tell our listeners on how to do that?
Sure thing. So on the county website, there's a page for the Council on Aging, and there's a make a donation button on
Okay.
every page of the Council on Aging. So whatever you'd like, always feel free to send a check to 711 Marshall Street. If you want to designate a program, you can absolutely do that. But we will have our couple fundraisers coming up. So June 6th will be our Senior Express Poker Run with the Escorts Motorcycle Club. We do that every year, and those guys are amazing. And then we'll offer our Meals on Wheels benefit on the 22nd of August.
Awesome.
Saturday.
Awesome. Before we get into the next segment, which is one of my favorite parts of the show,
Okay.
I just want to call out the Fort Leavenworth Spouses Club. That's our nonprofit that I'm supporting today. Their president, Alyssa Murphy, will be on the show in the next couple of weeks. So shout out to them. They support our troops. They support our community. They do a lot of great things. And so if you're interested, go to their website, kind of check them out as well.
And they support the Council on Aging.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So now we get into the fun part. We're going to get to learn a little bit more about Connie.
Okay.
What's something good that you're weirdly good at that no one would guess?
Oh my gosh. I'm a singer. I sang at
Really?
several of my friends' weddings back in the day. Oh, and golf. I beat my husband at golf.
Okay. Okay. Can we go to any events to hear you sing?
Karaoke. Maybe. I think we're going to do karaoke on my birthday at the Council on Aging. Stop by.
Okay. What's the date on that?
March 30.
Okay, 3:30. All right, got it. What's the last thing that made you laugh out loud?
My goodness sakes.
I didn't say this was easy.
No.
This is fun.
Well, my staff, like I said, I have, I have a staff member, I call her Giggles McGee because of the way she laughs. She just makes me laugh out loud every day, but I won't name her.
All right. All right. If someone followed you around for a day, what would surprise them the most?
That at the Council on Aging, I think I get in 4 miles every day. So if you're going to follow me around, you better get to step in.
Walking shoes
Yeah, that's
on,
right.
huh?
So 3 to 4 miles a day.
Are you a rule follower by nature or a rule questioner?
I live in shades of gray, Joe. So I like rules, but I think there's always an exception to that rule. So
I would have guessed you a rule breaker.
really?
Yeah.
Probably.
What's a habit that you picked up that you didn't expect to keep?
Well, working out. My I was caring for my mom who was diabetic and had renal failure, and I just decided I'd been pre-diabetic most of my life that I wasn't going to do that. And so I picked up working out. I don't think I've ever sweat in my life until I turned 50.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's kept you from getting diabetes?
Yes, I'm not even on the radar, not even pre-diabetic anymore.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And people don't realize the value in some of that and just keeping some of these different maladies away.
Yeah. Yeah. Mobility is key. We talk about, people are one fall away from something big.
Mhm.
That's sometimes when we find out that people have been sick for a while or different things like that, or that leads to rehab and less mobility. I mean, just kind of a self-perpetuating issue.
My father had arteriosclerosis his whole life. He had 3 open heart surgeries. By the time he was 50, he had this first. So I had made it my rule to try to avoid that, and that's how I got into working out every day, and I've managed to 52, or I'll be 52 this year. I've managed to keep that at bay as well. So I
Right.
definitely understand what you mean.
Well, if you need an accountability partner, let me know.
What's your personal definition of a perfect day?
Uh, That's these are hard, Joe.
I know,
A
I
perfect
know.
day would be sun shining, 70 degrees. I love to work. I love to
Okay.
get up and go to work. But if I could squeeze in a visit with my daughter during that, she's
Oh,
17 hours away in North
aw,
Carolina. But that would be a perfect day.
okay.
But I love to see my staff and love to see people filing into the Council on Aging ready to do whatever it is that day they want to do.
What's one small annoyance you wish you could get rid of in your life?
Email. Get rid of email. Yeah.
What's the most random thing you always seem to remember?
Oh. I can pretty much always remember a name. Doesn't matter if I've seen you once.
Really?
And I think that comes back to being a teacher, and you need to see everybody on the first day. And I always knew everybody's name by the second day, and so I could call you out. And that was scary for kids. First, I taught seventh grade, but
Oh
a
man.
name I can always keep track of.
Wow, I wish I had that
Yeah,
superpower. I can remember faces vividly, but sometimes I struggle with names.
yeah.
Um, what's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Um, Get over yourself. Not
Mhm,
about you. I had my boss tell me that, and so we think about that. Like there are things that you want to do, but is it the right thing for somebody else? It's not
mhm.
about my bias. It's about, is it good for somebody else? And so, yeah. I,
What's one small luxury that you don't often allow yourself?
mm, time to myself,
Mhm,
just quiet time, reading a book, sitting down, no distractions. Um, I typically don't do that unless I'm on a vacation, but I
mhm.
need to do that more.
Last book you read?
Um, Stephen King. It was called Holly. It's a
Okay.
part of a trilogy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the Mr. Mercedes trilogy.
Last movie you binged?
Oh, The Pit.
Oh,
I
nice.
love The Pit.
Yeah, have you started season 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, because Noah Wiley in ER, that
Uh-huh.
was right in my wheelhouse.
We happened upon it, and we're watching it too.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it's really good. Um, favorite spot to eat in Leavenworth County?
Hmm. There's so many good ones. Um, Harbor Lights.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You like cheesecake?
I love breakfast.
Okay.
I love breakfast, but I do love cheesecake too.
All right.
Coffee. Yeah.
All right. Last question.
Mm-hmm.
What's one thing you hope never changes?
Mm. Just in general or about the Council on Aging?
In general,
Never changes.
maybe
Uh,
about society, maybe about our community, whatever you want it to be.
yeah. There is such a Leavenworth is such a service oriented
Mhm.
community. Like, I would love to see that. Like, we don't struggle to get volunteers. People are always willing to help us. And I think I'm hoping that's not generational. And that's something that our 30, 40, 50-year-olds will follow the lead of their parents and continue to do that and notice what the huge lift our 60, 70, sometimes 80-year-olds are pulling in this community.
That's interesting. Do you think that's changed at all? Have we gotten more volunteers since you've been involved?
Yes, we have a huge bank of volunteers, but they sit in an age demographic. Like, you worry some about, and I know that 30,
Mhm.
40-year-olds are busy with kids and activities and different things, but just to notice, what is happening in the community so they, feel like they could maybe step into that when they're ready and when they have time to
Mhm.
do that. I hope that never changes about this community.
Any final words about the Council on Aging that you'd like to share with our
Yeah.
listeners?
Come by and see us. Even if you don't think it's a question that we can answer, call us anyway. We'll hook you up with anybody you need to. That's what we do.
If we just want to take a tour, we can call you up and say, I'd like to see it.
Absolutely. It's my favorite thing to talk about.
And we'd be ready to walk 4 miles.
Of course. Yes.
Of course.
Get to stepping.
Connie, thank you so much for being here. You're such a joy. You are a treasure to our community. I don't know that I have met anybody that just has a heart for what they do as much as you do.
Thank you.
And you do it willingly, and probably for not a lot of pay. And if we can talk to the county commissioners about getting you a raise, I'd definitely throw that in there.
I appreciate that.
Thank you for joining us today. If you like the content, please, like and subscribe. We do this so that you guys can understand what we're doing. Thank you, Connie, once again for being here. And that's our show for this week.
Thanks for having me.